Good evening, everyone, and Hag Urim Sameach, Happy Hanukkah. I'll just check in with my tech, making sure the sounds are all good. Let me know in the comments section if you can hear me all right. Such a pleasure to be with you all tonight again. It is Sunday. The sun has gone down many hours ago, but we still have Hanukkah lights to kindle. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead. If you got a menorah or a Chanukah and you have not kindled your Hanukkah lights yet, I invite you to do so with us here on Jakey Live. So, there it is. So, here we go, and we will say our blessings together. Lighting that first candle, new, of the night, new candle first, Radha. Let me go back. And that's just custom. Some people do it different. I saw some people in Israel today, actually, on a call. They did it completely differently. He just went right through. He lit everything one after the other. It was all good. And you know, minhag hamakom, custom of the specific place. For safety purposes, I'm lighting, and now let's bless together. So I hope that you'll sing with me. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavotenu ve'imotenu, bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. All right, now we're going to leave those burning there, but get back over here, see if, and that is just such a nice shot, folks, that we can have the Hanukkah burning right on my shoulder. So, tonight on Jakey Live, we celebrate the miracle of Hanukkah. And we'll begin tonight with the lighting of the Hanukkah candles as we did, and tonight is the fourth night. So, we are starting in on our exploration here of Hanukkah. So, we know the familiar Hanukkah narrative, which starts with a family of Jewish warriors, the Maccabees. See if we get our Maccabees up here. So right here, this is a picture of the Maccabean revolt right here. It's a beautiful, beautiful artistic rendering of it. So Mattathias Maccabee, along with his 5 sons, defend the Holy Temple from King Antiochus and his much larger army of the Greeks. After affronts against the Jewish way of life and defilement of the Holy Temple, the Maccabees reclaim and rededicate the temple for a ceremony lasting 8 days, as we know. So our Hanukkah story tells us that immediately preceding the 8-day celebration, there's only one container of oil that remained that had not been touched or messed with by the Greeks. While this oil was only enough for one night, it ended up lasting for 8 nights, as we know. So contrary to popular belief, the miracle of the 8-day oil is not found in 1 or 2 Maccabees, where much of the Hanukkah story is derived from. So in order to understand this further, let's take a look at exactly where the Hanukkah story comes from. So the Greek Septuagint. The books of Maccabees are not found in the Torah, but in the Septuagint, the earliest known translation of the Hebrew Bible into Greek. The Septuagint was written for Hellenistic Jews living outside of Jerusalem in 300 to 200 BCE, before the Common Era. So Hellenism means Greek culture. Hellenistic Jews combining practices of Judaism and tradition with Greek culture, much to the ire of the traditionalists who were Jewish of the time, including the Maccabees. The word synagogue itself actually comes from Koine Greek, which was a language spoken by the Hellenized Jews across southeastern Europe. So after unpacking 1 and 2 Maccabees, a collage of events eventually pieced together a familiar Hanukkah story. The Maccabee family, Hellenism, and the reconsecration of the temple for 8 days are all there, roughly woven between these epic accounts.
Mimalel gurot Israel otanu yivne hein bechol dor yakum agibor goel ham. Mimalel gurot Israel otanu yivne hein bechol dor yakum agibor goel ham. Shema bayamim ahem bazman hazeh Maccabi Moshiach ufodeh Uvyamenu kol am Yisrael Yitached yakum lechigael. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid. At this time of year, in days of yore, Maccabees the temple did restore, and today our people as we dreamed will unite, arise, and be redeemed. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid. In every age a hero or sage came to our aid.
Okay. So, Maccabees 1, the scene is set with a lot of radical Hellenization taking place. So the adoption of Gentile customs by the Jews in Jerusalem is presented as just such a despicable and obscene act in the eyes of the pious Jews of the time, especially the Maccabees. Mattathias Maccabee, the patriarch, he rejects pagan worship by killing an officer and a Jew who was willing to denounce their religion and offer a pagan sacrifice. Mattathias' sons continue to fight against the Hellenizing forces, including the most prominent warrior, Judah, or as is known, Judas Maccabeus. And Judas Maccabeus was the inspiration of a super epic Handel opera, or oratorio. And it was so fantastic when it premiered, and it was based off the Hanukkah story. So this goes through many different denominations and religions. It's a universal story. So Judah Maccabee's military triumphs lead to a recapturing and rededication of the temple, as well as the Feast of Lights, which they celebrated for 8 days.
Mattathias bold, 5 brave sons had he, Eleazar eldest son, Simon, John, and Jonathan, and Judah Maccabee, Mattathias bold, 5 brave sons had he, Eleazar eldest son, Simon, John, and Jonathan, and Judah Maccabee, Mattathias bold, 5 brave sons had he, Eleazar eldest son, Simon, John, and Jonathan, and Judah Maccabee, Mattathias bold, 5 brave sons had he, Eleazar eldest son, Simon, John, and Jonathan, and Judah Maccabee, and Judah Maccabee.
All right, so the first thing that we heard tonight was Mi Yimalel, which is a song about the story of Hanukkah and the miracles that God bestowed upon the Jewish people to help the Maccabees and to help them to rededicate their temple. So that song right there was Mattathias Bold, and that was my own arrangement. So when we hear the main line, there is a round, I think, that goes along with it. And just as the days go on throughout the week, I'm thinking to myself, especially Hanukkah coming up, like what other type of melodies are coming out of there? So that's how you heard those other little ones coming up. So we heard a little bit about 1 Maccabees, right? The first account of the Maccabees book, now 2 Maccabees. It begins with a letter from the Jews in Jerusalem to the Jews in Egypt, telling them why they should celebrate Hanukkah. As King Antiochus rises to power, he begins to heavily oppress the Jews. And 2 Maccabees presents the idea of martyrdom through Eleazar and his public refusal to eat meat. So this is not something that was really seen very often. Here we got Eleazar. And this is him refusing to eat meat, and he's dying because of it, unclean meat, so non-kosher meat. And this is something that really is not found in 1 Maccabees, because after they get massacred, after they get fought with on Shabbat, Matthias says in 1 Maccabees, all right, we got to fight on Shabbat then, we got to defend ourselves. So this was the excerpt right here from 2 Maccabees. So it says, but he, Eleazar, welcoming death with honor rather than life with pollution, went up to the rack of his own accord, spitting out the flesh. He was willing to die because of it. So in addition to the martyrdom in 2 Maccabees, the idea of resurrection is brought to light with the woman and her 7 sons, and she watches them get tortured even more brutally than the last one as it goes on. And it's just awful. And the reason why she's able to accept this and feel okay with it is because she knows that God will bring them back. She has that feeling inside of her. And this is something out of 2 Maccabees. You're not going to see this in 1 Maccabees. Therefore, the creator of the world, who shaped the beginning of humankind and devised the origin of all things, will in his mercy give life and breathe to you again breath, since you now forget yourselves for the sake of his laws. Absolutely cutting. Absolutely cutting. There's Maccabees right there. They're talking about God, bringing it to the people, and bringing them back from the dead. And this is not a concept that we're really going to see very often in Judaism, as we know. But turns out it's in there. It's in there more than we think. So between 1 and 2 Maccabees, we get a synthesis of these 2 books. They come together. And we have military conquest in 1 Maccabees. We have miracles in 2 Maccabees, and also the oil. As a sacrifice that's burned is burned with a thick oil they call naphtha. And the light miracles synthesized with the oppression of the Jewish people by Antiochus celebrates Hanukkah for 8 days. Either account is going to celebrate that Hanukkah for 8 days. So if not in the book of Maccabees, where are we finding this oil, this magical oil that actually lasts for 8 days? So I'm going to find that, boom, right in the Talmud. More writings of Judaism. So many deep and rich, valuable writings, and that's actually where we find this. It says in Tractate Shabbat 21b, when the Greeks entered the sanctuary, they defiled all the oils that were in the sanctuary by touching them. A miracle occurred as they found oil that was not defiled by the Greeks, thinking it would only be sufficient for 1 night, and it lasted for 8 nights. So is Hanukkah a celebration of light? Is it a celebration of military victory? Were the Maccabees fighting against the Greeks and Antiochus, or were they fighting against Hellenized Jews? One thing we know for certain is that we got those 8 days. So we had political unrest, a leader full of himself not allowing the Jews to practice Judaism in their land that they lived in. And this is a ever-present theme for Jews in various places. So we're not, unfortunately, we're not strangers to it. But we as Jews, we use our strength to overcome it. We make sure that we never, ever give in to the forces that want to stop us from being who we are. So we go, and it's not just by physical strength, but it was by the Spirit that enabled us to overcome Antiochus in the army.
Shall we all live in peace, not by might and not by power, tears may fall, and we'll hear them fall, and another song will rise, and another song will rise, and another song will rise. Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone, shall we all live in peace. Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone, shall we all live in peace. Not by might, not by power, shalom.
So in addition to strength that they had physically and all of the resources that they had, the Maccabees still said that it was God that helped them through. It was the power of God that inspired them and enabled them to go through. Now, there was one other thing that actually helped the Maccabees, and there was something that was very skilled and a very challenging thing to do, but they were extremely, extremely good at this, and it was guerrilla warfare. So that was something that was privy mostly to the Maccabees at the time, and they were able to rededicate the temple for 8 days through all of their endeavors, and we remember them to this day because of it. We sanctify the day of Hanukkah and 7 days that come after it for the rededication. So this is just something we retain for going forward in this time of challenge for the pandemic and everything. So this last song that we're going to listen to tonight, Ma'od Sor, and I just want to say a couple things about it before we jump into it. With this rededication of the temple, the triumphant feelings that they had afterwards, it wasn't going to last for that long, right? Because there's all of these fluctuations in freedom for Jews. It's always changing. So the strength that they had, the Maccabees, let us be inspired by that, but let us also be vigilant and always being sure to look after one another and also be open to hearing the plight of other peoples. For it was us during the Hanukkah story, but it might be somebody else at another time. So with that, let's let the strength come from the power of God and let it inspire us on this night of Hanukkah going forward.
Ma'od Sor Yeshuati Lecha Na'eh Leshabeach Tikon Betefilati B'Sham Toda Nizabeach Li'etachin Matbeach Mizar Cham Nabeach Az Egmor B'Shir Mizmor Chanukah HaMizbeach Az Egmor B'Shir Mizmor Chanukah HaMizbeach. Rock of ages, let our song praise your saving power. You amid the raging foes were our sheltering power. Furiously they assailed us, but your arm availed us, and your word it broke their sword when our own strength failed us, and your word it broke their sword when our own strength failed us.
My friends, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. As you can hear, I like those tight, almost like barbershop harmonies. If you heard a soprano voice or you thought you heard a soprano voice in that choir, yes, in fact, that was Cantor Rachel Slusky. So thank you to Cantor Rachel Slusky for lending her voice, for grabbing these Hanukkah candles last minute because we had run out effectively, and just for doing so many other fantastic things. Thank you so much to Cantor Rachel, our Arts and Tech Director here at Jakey Live. And also, an extremely special shout out to Temple Sinai of Palm Beach County, which really is the foundation of all of this. So thank you to them, thank you to the administration and the board who is encouraging for all the creativity that I'm looking to put out and put together in this place. So more music next week. I know we had promised Lewandowski, but I figured with Hanukkah, we had to understand, what is really going on with this story. So we understand 1 Maccabees military conquest, 2 Maccabees, the forced Hellenization for the Jews in the diaspora, learning about the forced Hellenization rather. And so the Babylonian Talmud, it gives us the miracle of the oil for lasting 8 nights. So thank you all for being with us tonight, with me here and with Rachel. This is Jakey Live. God willing, we'll all meet again next week, around 8:30. Let's go for 8:30. That's sounding better these times. So thank you, everybody. Happy Hanukkah, and we'll see you soon.